Hi there. So today we're going to learn how to use Google Forms for teacher input on student IEPs. Currently, our department has a very unorganized and non-uniform way of gathering this input, and Google Forms will allow us to streamline how we get information from our students' general education teachers to use when we update their IEPs for their annual reviews. This presentation is going to be used as a guide to teach you how to create and share these forms. I will go ahead and let you know that we can stop whenever someone has a question. I can come over and help you individually. We can collaborate and work through it together. But ultimately, our department will be way more organized and we'll have a much better way of getting information for our students. Let's go ahead and get started. Why should we use Google Forms? Well, Google Forms allow us to create and manipulate Google Forms so that we can track and monitor progress on the variety of different IEP goals that our students have. They allow us to collaborate because we can interact with their gen ed teachers and the service personnel that may work with our students. They allow us to be much more efficient because we can access Google Forms from a lot of different devices, including the school Chromebooks that you're using now. And in the end, when we want to look at some data, we'll be able to graph those results to look at a very broad spectrum of the information that we have gathered. So how do we create the form itself? Well, I want you to go to your Google Drive and you'll select Create, and go down here. Well, Google Forms doesn't appear, so we can click on More, and it will appear in the next drop-down menu. Choose Google Forms, and then create a blank form. So that screen will look somewhat like this. You'll have an untitled form, which is just a template for what we're going to be designing. So the first thing that we'll want to do is to give our form a title and a description. This is what your recipient will see, so they'll know what kind of form they're going to be filling out. The next thing we'll do is we will start to develop some questions. Now there's 3 different types of questions that I would suggest using, but again, we're going to work together, but today is just to come up with an example. The first type of question would be the paragraph style. We're going to use this when we're going to ask how the student's performing, when we want the teacher just to kind of give us everything that they can comment on, or just a few little blurbs about how the student's doing in their class. We can use checkboxes when we'd like them to be able to choose more than one answer, like if we were going to create a list of accommodations, and we'll get to that in just a minute. And then there's multiple choice. I always think it's a good idea to invite all the gen ed teachers to the IEP meeting because some of them really do want to come and contribute to the meeting. So I think that's a great option to have. And here's an example of a question. So we have our description and our title, and so now we're going to add a paragraph type question, and you choose paragraph from the drop-down menu. And I just put in here about how the student's progressing in their class. You can put any types of things in there that you would want some lengthier feedback to. And then you'll add the next question with this little plus button over here. And here's an example of the checkbox type questions. They can choose obviously more than one of these accommodations, and I've also left a space down here for other accommodations for those less common ones, but we still want to acknowledge those with our data collection. So if we have any questions, we can stop here, or if you just need time to experiment a little, I think it might be good to take a few minutes to do that. Alrighty, you might also have some questions about how to share and send these forms with our collaborating teachers. Well, you'll go ahead and see the option to send form up here. When you click on that, this appears here, and I have it checked to automatically collect the recipient's email address, and I also think it's a good idea to send them an email or a link to the form. You'll fill in their email address here. It'll tell what the subject is, and we put that in the beginning of our form. And it'll tell them they're invited to fill out a form and include the form in the email. From here you can just push send, but also take note of this add collaborators button down here. What that does for us is it allows you to set your sharing options. So you can allow the people that you share it with to either view it or edit it. It depends on what it's for. But for our purposes, we're going to allow each other to edit the forms because we are working together as a close-knit team. But in other instances, you may just want them to be able to view that. Alrighty, and how to view the responses and summaries once they start coming in. So when you receive responses, there will be a couple of different screens that you can look at. You can click on responses up here and get those email notifications. And then when you start to see responses coming in, or if you're waiting on them, they'll appear here, who's responded, and this says that you're still waiting. Now when you actually get a response, this is what it's going to look like. You'll have however many you've received here. It'll also appear here of how many you've received. There will be a summary, which is what this page is. It'll show their email address as we requested that. And it'll also show that teacher's name because we included that on our Google form. Now in the long run, I was talking about that cumulative data, and that'll be available on the spreadsheet up here, but that's for a later time. But that's just what that option is right there. And so when you click on the individual response, when you scroll down, you'll be able to see everything that your teacher contributed to the form and what their responses were. So that's really kind of a quick snapshot. We're going to take some time and explore this. I want you to come up with a sample form, and we're going to share it with one another. So I'd like you to take some time to do that right now, and also make sure you share it with me because I want to be able to see how you're doing and give you some feedback and give you some tips for improvement and some encouragement on things that you did well. But before we do that, I'd just like to answer a couple questions that I get pretty frequently. Some people want to know if I can use the system without a Google account, and you can't because it is a Google form and there's some components that are unique to Google. People also would like to know sometimes if the teachers or paraprofessionals who you send the form to need a Google account, and they don't, you can send it to anyone with an email address. And does it take a long time to prepare each form? It does. It takes, that's why we're working together. We're going to create a list of essential questions, but it is worth it in the end. As a special ed team moving forward, we'll be able to streamline our process, and teachers will appreciate just getting one form. They know what the questions are. They know what's going to be asked of them. So in the end, it's going to be worth all of our hard work. So at this time, I'll open the floor to any questions. And keep in mind, I'm always available even after the training if you have any questions. You can email me, and here's my email address down here. At this time, we'll pause for questions. Alrighty, so that wraps up our presentation. This will be available to you. I will go ahead and share that, and let's go ahead and give it a try. Great job today. Thanks.